My name is Mark, and I am a co-host on the Oregon Files podcast, and we would love for you to give us a listen. We don't cuss and we don't discuss politics, so that's a win right there. We are based in Roseburg, Oregon, and cover everything from Bigfoot to buried treasures, UFOs, to interviews with amazing people who have a story to tell. Now my co-host, Elliot Bowman.
Thank you, Mark. We would appreciate your listen. If you feel you got a story to be immortalized on a podcast and have it shared on YouTube, Audible, wherever you get your podcasts, reach out to us on Oregon Files Podcast at yahoo.com or on Instagram or Facebook on our website, www.theoregonfilespodcast.com.
Nailed it.
Cheers.
Writing the West. Stories and poems by Rick Steber. Read by Michael Messner and friends. Putrified. Moses Black Harris was a mountain man and a teller of tall tales. One time at a dinner party in St. Louis, he had the following dinner conversation with a young lady seated at his table.
Mr. Harris, I understand you are indeed quite a traveler.
I'm a trapper, ma'am, and a mountain man.
Well, I bet you've seen a lot of sights in your wanderings.
Sights? More'n a coon goes over in 100 lifetimes. Trapped beaver on the Platte, Arkansas, Missouri, clean to the Yellowstone. Trapped the Columbia, Lewis Fork, Green River, fought Injuns too. Blackfoot, damn bad Injuns there. Manchee, Arapaho, raised hair more than one. In my time, done her all, I tell ya. Why, I've seen heaven and I've seen hell. Fact is, I've seen a putrified forest.
A what?
Putrified forest, ma'am. Why, sure as my rifle's got hindsights and shoot center. Black Hill country, dead of winter. Come into this valley, everything's green, green grass, green trees, green leaves, it all turned to stone. I tell you, it's putrified, don't you know?
The woman looked at him skeptically, but Black Harris ignored her and continued.
I hear this bird singing, and I up and shoot him. His head broke off and rolls on the ground. But the singing never stops, just keeps on going.
Mr. Harris, how can that be?
The woman wanted to know.
How can the bird's singing continue after you shot his head off?
Black Harris told her dryly that the song was putrified too. Gentleman Jim. For more than a decade, John L. Sullivan held the world title as the bare-knuckle heavyweight champion. Fans were attracted to his marathon matches that lasted as many as 75 rounds. Because of the brutality, many states and local jurisdictions outlawed bare-knuckle boxing, and it became difficult for Sullivan to earn a living. Jim Corbett began his boxing career at the time boxing was moving away from the bare-knuckle era to fighting with gloves. Jim represented the new age of boxing. He had attended college, worked as a bank clerk, and had been trained by a professional coach. He dressed smartly and was well-spoken. He became known as Gentleman Jim. On September 7, 1892, John L. Sullivan and Gentleman Jim met in the first sanctioned World Heavyweight Championship title bout. This fight, held in New Orleans, attracted a crowd of over 10,000 fight fans and moved professional boxing out of the realm of criminal activity and into acceptable public entertainment. Sullivan was the heavy favorite and won the first 2 rounds. Gentleman Jim did not throw a punch, and the crowd began to hiss and demand that he stop running and start fighting. They were rewarded in the 3rd round when Gentleman Jim came to life and broke Sullivan's nose. But not until the 21st round did the challenger hit the champion with a flurry of punches that caused Sullivan's eyes to roll back and his legs to buckle. He was not able to rise. Gentleman Jim was crowned the world's first heavyweight champion under the Marquis of Queensberry rules. He held the title until losing to Bob Fitzsimmons in 1897. After that, he became a stage actor and had a successful career in the movies. Speed of horse. The trouble with America is simple. It's these doggone roads and highways and those newfangled automobiles. We used to travel at the speed of horse. You saw everything that was fit to see. Birds in a field rising as you passed. Does and fawns feeding on spring grass. A gray rabbit dashing in the weeds. There were wild plums for the picking, and apples, cherries, and acorns, too. There were ditches, gullies, and hills, mountains, lakes, and dark forests. When traveling at the speed of horse, there was always more to see. Grubstake. Lucky Strike Len, a holdover from the gold rush days, was anything but lucky. An acquaintance of Lucky's described him as
an old man who claimed he was in on every chunk of gold ever found. He wore a droopy brown hat caked with a mixture of sweat and dirt, and his face was a tangle of hair. Now, some folks say that he hadn't taken a bath since his mommy gave him one at birth. I tell you, he's quite a character. Spent most of his time in the mountains with his mule, claiming he was prospecting. When he hit town, he liked to blow off steam. Drank quite a little, and when it was his turn, if he had the money, he never shied away from buying around. Yeah, he was a likable enough cuss, and could he ever talk a good story? Well, now, if there happened to be a greenhorn around, Lucky would saddle up next to him and spin stories about fabulously rich ore veins and places where nuggets were as big as a man's thumb lay on top of the ground. And he would keep talking and keep a-talking until finally the greenhorn would agree to grubstake him. Then Lucky would buy supplies and head out of town. And he'd return a few weeks later with a hard luck story about coming so close to making his big find, but there was always a but. One time the greenhorn, who had grubstaked Lucky last time, simply smiled at the old man and said, maybe next time, and handed Lucky a cigar.
The acquaintance went on to say that when Lucky lit the cigar, which had been loaded with black powder, it exploded. And from that day on, Lucky was a bit more selective about who he asked for a grubstake. Bee-Lieve It. Grandpa was a true gentleman in every sense of the word. As far as I know, the taste of liquor never touched his lips, nor did he ever smoke or engage in any behavior of a questionable nature. His only vice, if you want to call it a vice, was the fact that he had a sweet tooth. I have seen that man gobble down the entire contents of a box of chocolate-covered cherries without ever having the presence of mind to share with anyone else in the room. I watched him swipe fresh cookies off Grandma's cooling racks one by one when her back was turned, and he was not satisfied until he had devoured every last cookie in the batch. Grandma was so mad she wouldn't talk to him for a solid week. Sometimes Grandpa was able to soothe his craving by searching out bee trees and robbing them of the honey. It takes patience to find a bee tree in the wilds. First thing is to locate a spot where flowers are blooming and bees are working. In theory, a bee, after it is loaded with nectar, will fly by the most direct route to the hive. Grandpa devised a trick. He dusted bees with flour, and that made the tracking much easier. One time, Grandpa trailed bees to a big oak tree that was hollow on the inside. He squeezed through the narrow opening and feasted on honey. Afternoon turned to evening, and when he did not return, Grandma became worried and sent out the boys to look for Grandpa. Eventually they found him, and believe it or not, the old man had eaten so much honey he was trapped and could not fit through the opening. The boys had to fetch an axe and chop him out, or else he'd probably still be there.
You've been listening to Writing the West. The stories and poetry in this podcast are by Rick Steber and appear in books by him. Log on to www.ricksteberauthor.com to find out more. This program was produced by Michael Messner by permission of the author. Special thanks to Michael Tucker, Rachel Pulliam, and Art Shingler. Thank you for listening.